Welcome back, and that's where we're keeping our focus now. And joining us to help us understand all of this political calculations is Shina Fagbenro. Byron, he's the COA party presidential candidate. I want to thank you so much indeed for coming.
Thank you very much for
on
having
Sunrise
me.
Daily, as well as Professor Anthony Kila, Center for International Advance and Professional Studies. Thank you as well for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning. We're at such a point that one must ask, what actually transpired at that point where those results or those conclusions were agreed at? Starting with you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, you know, I wouldn't know what transpired because as presidential candidate, I was not invited to any screening. Neither was I informed of the screening process. All we did was that there were forms we filled, and this is the usual thing for all coalitions. You know, it's good to have coalitions. We want to minimize, we want to make things clearer for Nigerians. I want to be able to present to the Nigerian people and the youth enough clarity in terms of who to vote for and who not to vote for. So what usually happens for coalitions is that every party to a coalition, you put in the particulars, the documentation for your party and for your candidate, which we did for CUPP. But the CUPP itself has its own guidelines, which we hoped that it will follow transparently. I mean, after all, without the rule of law, where is Nigeria going? And transparency is the first, issue on the rule of law. Now, the CUPP's document, its own document, says there are 3 steps or 4 steps. The first step is to fill in the, make sure that you're a candidate, you fill the forms, how large is your party, what are your strengths, you know, et cetera, et cetera. The second stage is to present your manifesto, because we all came together as a coalition, not just for coming together, not just to change government, but we want to change governance, and we say and we claim we have something to deliver. Now, COA party believes that it has the best offer and the best options in terms of what our priorities are and the best way to implement it. And we wanted to present them. COA party is not fearful of competition. Look at the primaries for COA party. We had primaries, 3-stage primaries. It was open and transparent. At the end of the day, all the 3 candidates that contested came together and congratulated me, because they were satisfied with the process, because they saw that nobody was cheated. Now, the point is that you cannot get something, you can, the contraption at which you produce, you have a product, will determine the quality of the product itself. So we were surprised, quite frankly, and come to think of it, in October 22, I gave a press conference warning that the CUPP should come out transparently and give us the guidelines. Up till now, we don't know who and who is on the screening committee of CUPP. I have never met anybody. I don't know who they are. None of them have invited me. I haven't met any other presidential candidate, except the ones myself and they personally talk together, people like Donald Duke or Iragbe. You get my point? And I'm aware that none of them were invited.
But this doesn't really take away from the endorsement of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar as the consensus candidate for the CUPP.
Well, it doesn't really take away from it. Yes, you're right. I mean, I think 3 things needs to be said. Number 1 is that the endorsement of Abubakar Atiku by the CUPP is quite an easy prediction. Or better still, it was easy to predict that they were not going to endorse Buhari anyway, for starters, because if the people of the CUPP felt that the APC was superb and Buhari fantastic, there would be no CUPP. So yes, it was clear they were not going towards Buhari. The question is, who are they going towards? Their reasoning in the official communication says that they looked at who had the capacity, who was more competitive, and who had the reach in the country to do it. Shina Byron argues rightly that he and his party could have had that reach as well. I think with this process, while the substance might be right or wrong, because partisan choices are relative. An objective flaw is there, and that is this lack of transparency and communication. And unfortunately, it says something not just about the CUPP, but by the political system as well. And it's a shame, that we've lost that opportunity, because when a coalition of more parties get together and a coalition of more candidates, I've been an advocate of coalitions of parties and candidates for long in this country, even before now. I think it's a missing opportunity that the CUPP had to show that things can be done differently. In this case, they've done things in a very old way. Interestingly, the primaries that brought out Atiku himself was better than this one, because at least you saw what happened in Port Harcourt, whether you like it or not. There could have been some intangible, latent, invisible forces behind things, but in terms of people stood, votes were counted, it doesn't get better than that. And the fact that all the aspirants rather, rallied around the winner, that's a good thing for democracy. What those who have managed this endorsement have not done very well. If they were in my class, I will fail them.
Okay, you say that they've not done very well, but let's hear from them. Abduljalil Tafawa Balewa is a member of the CUPP steering committee. They're the ones who endorsed Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. But you've heard from both gentlemen. Thank you for joining us, by the way, in our Abuja studios. You've heard from both gentlemen, and they said that that process is incredible.
The process is very credible. Oh, by the way, Doctors Byron and Professor Kila and I all belong to NIM, so it's a very proud morning that 3 products of NIM will be on at the same time. Now, I heard from Dr. Byron at some point, maybe 2 days ago, telling me that our points 2 and 3 on the documents sent out have been violated or just expunged. It isn't true at all. If you read those paragraphs again, you'll find out that we were referring to the parties to present their candidates. No one ever said, candidates will be sat down and then, interviewed. Nothing of the sort. The parties, after all, these parties have the ideologies of their presidential candidate. I think there were about 31 in all. The real crux of the problem is something that has not been touched on. In sections 140 and 141 of our Constitution, it says that, it spells out exactly how a presidential candidate can be chosen. And the vice presidential candidate must come from the same party. What came up in the selection process, and especially with SDP and COA, and I stand to be corrected, is that the choosing of the vice presidential candidate was supposed to come from CUPP. However, CUPP got together in the first place to have a consensus candidate. And our Constitution dictates that whoever the presidential candidate is, the vice presidential candidate must come from his or her party. So the semantics that's going on now, with a lot of respect to both Professor Kila and Dr. Byron, they just have to excuse us. You cannot say you want to know the people in the selection process. We're trying to do a whole lot of things, new things here, whereby in the past, if you know anyone in the selection committee,
my apologies. You say that they don't have to know who is in the selection process, but don't they have a right to know, being members of the CUPP?
No, it is occult.